something that I've noticed in nearly all of my clients at the moment is there is this real like heightened energy around this time of year and that kind of thing. So it's focusing on like let's just take some time out. So rather than repeating this cycle again for another 10 years like we have for the next 10 years, what can we do differently?
Welcome to Living Reflections. This is The Exchange, where conversations echo, stories meet, and wisdom is amplified. Well, Jackie, you've walked through trauma and suppression and deep transformation, and now you guide others to reclaim their truth with compassion and presence. And I'm so grateful that you can be here with me today and reflect in this sacred space. Can you take us back to the beginning? What led you to this work, and how did your healing journey begin?
Mm. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. Oh, what led me to this work? I would say hitting rock bottom and having absolutely no idea what I was going to do with my life, to put it simply. So I had, yeah, a lot of trauma, suppressed trauma that I hadn't dealt with. And I was working in the police force, and without realizing it, that had become my identity. And then when I left the police force, it was very much a what do I do with my life? And I had tried to see psychologists throughout my life and had just not received any help from them. Like they just did nothing for me, if I'm honest. And I went and saw this other psychologist who had been referred to me, and within 5 minutes, I just knew that she was amazing. And I remember her saying, like, we just need to work out what you love, who you are, that kind of thing. And I'm like, but I'm a cop. She's like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, but I am. She's like, no, that was your job. That's not you. And like it took, quite a bit of processing, if I'm honest, to separate myself from that. Um, yeah, so and that was like the darkest time in my life. Like I was really, really at rock bottom. And through working with her and then trying to work out one of her major goals was to work out what I was going to do with the future. And it was through her that she sort of mentioned coaching. And I'm like, oh, well, that could be interesting because I thought about going back and studying psychology. But then the idea of, being a mature age student without an income is not great. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of where my healing started with her. And I delved into personal development before. I'd looked at, read all the books and done some of the, watched the videos and that kind of thing. But I realize now that because I had not actually done any healing work, nothing landed. I'd have short bursts of motivation and feeling good, but as soon as anything went wrong or if there was a hiccup or any challenge, it just, I just went back to my old ways. So, yeah, I think really leaving the police force was the turning point for me because it was very much you've got shit to deal with and you have to deal with it or this isn't going to end well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that society really takes us into that journey, like of our identity is who we are
Mm,
through our work, not who we actually are. And
yeah.
it's a really important thing to separate. Like I was the same in the police and then the military, that, my identity is wrapped around my work. And
Yeah.
when you lose that completely, when I had trauma in the military, I just had to go, but I've lost everything I am. Oh, but no, that's not true. I still have my purpose. I still have me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think people may not like me saying this, but 2020 and COVID and the pandemic was actually really good for my business because, and wrongly or rightly, I think good for a lot of people because they realized they're at home with their thoughts and they realized that outside of their work and running around like, headless chooks. It was like, what else do we do? Like they didn't know who they were. They were just at home with their thoughts, wondering what they were. And I think, as you said, like culturally and societally, it's, so ingrained in us that you just go to work and you work hard and that's who you are. And when you're forced to be at home, you realize that that's not actually who you are.
Yeah, yeah. And it really comes to our theme this time is like on self-compassion
Yeah.
and leading from within. And that self-compassion, that self-love is such an important feature, I think, that a lot of us don't
Oh,
gravitate towards. It's one of the lowest things I think that people actually help themselves if they're a serving in the community, like people who join the police
mm,
and military and other community jobs. They're very much like they're there to serve community, and we
yeah.
forget about ourselves. Was that part of
Yeah.
your journey too?
I think, yeah. Well, I think I was just very detached. I was very detached and I was very sympathetic to other people, but giving myself love or compassion or kindness didn't come easy. And I think a lot of people find that, it's so hard to give ourselves love and compassion. And depending on what we've been through and what we've lived through, that can sometimes explain why. And other times, we think it's selfish or we think we're arrogant. And obviously, we have the tall poppy syndrome in Australia. And that can be quite confronting. It's like, oh, if I prioritize myself or if I'm kind to myself, what will people think? And really, like, nothing can change if we don't have self-love and self-compassion. And I would say I still work on this like constantly. It's one of those things, the quickest thing to go in times of stress or, high demands or workload and that kind of thing can be that self-compassion, that kindness, that love. We automatically like put that pressure back on ourselves or, forget about it. It's like, I need a day off, but there's so much to do, and it's like finding that balance.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in that recently, just like go, go, go. And the first thing I
Yeah.
drop is myself. And then
Yeah.
you get to burnout. Like if you don't have those little breaks and those little times just for you, it's not a selfish thing. We have to look after
Yeah.
ourselves before we can actually look after others. And I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this year, maybe not so much where you are, but in Victoria, we've just had shocking weather. It's been so cold and everyone's exhausted. It's like everyone's exhausted. We get to the end of year and we just seem to repeat the same cycle. And I was the same. I'm like, I'm gonna give myself a day off this week. And, one meeting slipped in and then another meeting slipped in. I'm like, okay, so next week I'll give myself a day off. Um, without kids, I should say a day off without kids at home, because a day off with my kids at home is not really a day off.
No, no, I could imagine. I don't have kids, but like, yeah, yeah, it would be
Yeah.
very hard when you're in a family situation. But I think Sydney's the same. It's just it's just the end of the year is such a exhausting time.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
kind of hanging for our summer holidays to reset.
Yeah. And I think, that even that, like that compassion of and understanding that you don't have to wait until, there are things that we can do now to feel better and to feel ready for a break instead of, kind of racing to the end and then just checking out. And for most people, the end of year and the summer holidays aren't, especially the first part of it, aren't really that relaxing because we're running around, doing Christmas things and family things and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so it's just interesting the mindset that we approach at this time of year as well. I think it can be very much we just check out and zone in instead of, slowing down and tuning in or having those moments, those micro moments where we can slow down to really support ourselves.
Is that part of the coaching work that you do? Is like doing tools with other people, like breathing exercises and
Yeah, yeah. So I'm also a breathwork facilitator and an energy coach. So there's a lot of energetics that happen in my work. And I run breathwork separately as well, but then also for my clients. And something that I've noticed in nearly all of my clients at the moment is there is this real like heightened energy around this time of year and that kind of thing. So it's focusing on like let's just take some time out. So rather than repeating this cycle again for another 10 years like we have for the next 10 years, what can we do differently? And really tuning into that. So yeah, that slowing down and that pause can and often is a really big part of the work that I do.
Yeah, yeah. And I love breath work and meditations because it really brings you to the present moment
Yeah.
and anchors you in to and it does, it gives you the energy to keep on going, but we have to remember to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And I notice that I try and practice most days. Sometimes it'll be super short and sometimes it's a bit longer. And the days where I haven't done it for a couple of days, I notice in myself that I'm quite edgy. Like I can be quite kind of like a little bit edgy, a bit uncomfortable about what's going on. And I'm like, oh, I haven't taken a moment. And having two little kids, I know my eldest who's 4, when he gets worked up, I'm like, take a breath. And even seeing his nervous system calm with that, he's just like, it's like the cutest thing in the world. But you just like it's that reminder of like, okay, I can breathe with you. Like it doesn't have to be separate. And I think that's also a big part of it where we kind of, especially as women, I think we kind of feel like we have to lead a double life. Like our self-care has to be this private thing or done in perfect circumstances and situations when it doesn't have to be that way at all.
Mm.
Sometimes I say to my partner, I'm like, if I'm, worked up or whatever, I'm like, I just need a minute. And that was really hard for me to say. And sometimes I'm like, I'm going for a walk, you've got the kids, I'll be back in, half an hour. And that, like asking, or not even asking, telling of like, I'm at my capacity, I need this time. And that can be so hard for people because we feel like we're not allowed to.
Yeah, that is so true. It probably very much again ingrained in our culture that we
Yeah.
don't speak up. The same within trauma recovery, or
Yeah.
in what we're going through to really um, be value to ourselves and listen to what's going on in us. But if we don't stop and listen, then we ignore that part of it, don't we? And we keep on
Yeah.
going.
Yep. You ignore it. And I think we lose connection with our intuition when we're not constantly in relationship with it. Like if
Yeah.
we're not taking time to pause and tune in, even if and I think some people feel like there's something wrong with him if they don't hear anything or if they don't see anything in meditations. And there's nothing wrong with them. Not at all. It's just like taking that time to pause to see, just taking time to pause. And even that simple act, builds that relationship with our intuition. Whereas when we're constantly on, it's like, well, I'm out of here. You're not listening to me. So you're on your own.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any particular breath work that works with trauma recovery?
I think there are so many different types of breath work now. I think the most important part is the facilitator. Um, as with coaching, I think there are some breathwork facilitators that can cause harm or set unrealistic expectations in terms of their practice. So for me, I predominantly do like a connected breath. So there's no pause between the inhale and the exhale, and it's just a continuous breath. Um, and knowing how to hold people in that. I have a thing on all of my breathwork sites and stuff, depending if they've got PTSD or anxiety or, you know, a number of other conditions that will then change how I hold space for them and how I do the breath work with them. It'll also change the duration, the support that they get, that kind of thing. Whereas I think some people, if they come in with well, this is how I do it, and we're all doing it the same. Or
Mm.
I've heard some of the come and do a breath work with me and you'll heal all of your trauma in an hour. And I'm like, it's it's a really not possible for starters and a really harmful thing to say.
Yeah.
So I think making sure that the breathwork facilitator is trauma informed is hugely important. And if there's nothing on, if they don't mention anything on their sites or their pages about, having depression or anxiety or PTSD or anything else, to like ask some more questions. And
Mm,
anyone that gets defensive about that, I would just say
yeah,
walk away.
yeah, stay clear. Yeah,
Yeah, stay clear.
yeah, yeah.
And you do have big releases and you can have a really big release in breath work and have absolutely no idea what or why or anything like that. Um, and that's okay. Another hugely important part of it is integration. So having time after the active breath to let everything kind of settle because it can be really, really jolting and quite almost traumatic if you're like, all right, we're finished breathing, off you go.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's kind of like, oh, I've got this stuff going on. Um, yeah, so I think any breath can be supportive. It's really around the facilitator and what you want to get out of it.
yeah, yeah. And I find also like I've done box breathing, I've done
Yeah.
the longer exhale than inhale, but I
Yeah.
find when you pause in between like box breathing, that doesn't help me to settle my mind.
Mm,
But to just count the breath and go as long as I can afterwards, getting to more of a parasympathetic is a
yeah.
lot more better for me, but something that will work for somebody else. Like
Yeah.
anxiety, I know people have helped box breathing's helped them.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think it depends on the intention. Like if it's a sort of an instant, I just need to like settle myself, the box breathing can help. I kind of struggle with box breathing a little bit as well. Um, but in terms of like a practice, yeah, I wouldn't imagine. I would never use box breathing as in if we were doing like a breathwork journey or a breathwork ceremony.
mm, oh, a ceremony, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, well, I think it is a ceremony, like
Yeah, the ritual.
it's yeah, it's really ritualistic and everything is intentional for it,
Mm,
like we come together, we open, we talk, we go on a journey and then, we close. And I think, yeah, it really is a ceremony. It's like giving and creating space for ourselves, yeah, in a ritualistic
mm.
way.
Yeah, yeah. And I could see like there would be movement in the person from coming in, maybe in a very stressed state from the day, and then walking out, just feeling that relaxed, that present state. I'm okay.
Yeah.
There would be a
Yeah.
big shift you would see in that.
Yeah, huge shift. And you see it during, and it's kind of, um, I don't know what the right word is, but it's always, it sounds really strange, but whenever I see someone having that release or going through that process, there's kind of like this little internal high five that I give myself. I'm like, okay, like, we're in there, they're doing it, they're, having this experience. And, I've seen some people have the most, like the biggest releases, and even though they still feel quite like emotionally hungover afterwards, they're like, I feel so much lighter, and
Yeah.
even physical ailments. I've had people that are like, I've had a frozen shoulder for 12 months and now I can move my arm, or I've
Oh,
had
wow.
back pain and now I can, like, it doesn't hurt right now, so it's just wild and magic. It's like the closest thing to magic I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, you'd really feel like that heart-led leadership you've been doing, like I'm making a difference in people's lives um
Yeah.
and kind like does that talk into your purpose, like in some of your identity of going into the cops? Um
Yeah, so I think I joined the police. I'd always wanted to join the police force. I have quite a few family members who were in, and then obviously had like a fair bit of trauma before I joined. And my whole thing was like, I want to help people, and people think that's cliche, but I think so many people, like that's the reason why a lot of people join the police force. But controversially, I my experience, I'll put it that way, my experience with the police force was less about helping people and more about, the high of catching crooks or solving the crimes and that kind of thing. And I actually, when I left, I was working at one of the universities as an investigator there and really saw the difference in like victim-centric support and
Mm.
just seeing how much that's lacking in the police force, especially if we're looking at
Yeah.
domestic violence and stalking and sexual assault. It's like, and I put my hand up to say that I didn't handle a lot of jobs well. And it was, they come in and they report and they make a statement and then it's almost like they get forgotten about. Like we do the referrals, which is very much a tick the box, I've got to do this referral.
Yeah.
Um, and domestic violence, similarly, it's like, it's impacts us in so many ways and they report it to the police and it's almost made hard for them.
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
you've got to do this and you've got to do that and you've got to do this. That's not my job.
Mm.
When, even just coming and reporting it to the police is such a
It's,
huge deal.
yeah, it's something I've done quite a few times. Yeah, it is such
Yeah.
a huge thing. I've sat with people in court. It's like a 16-year-old who's gone through a young
Yeah.
sexual assault in on
Um,
a family member, and how she's treated in that moment,
yeah.
even by the family. Like it's
Yeah.
horrendous to what you go through, and there's no support there.
No. And
Mm,
I was like that recidivist caller to the police when I was at the university because so many of like staff or students that came and were like, you need to report this to the police, and they would, and then they just get fobbed off, and I'd be on the phone. I'm like, no, you can't, like, you have to do something about this. This is your job. So I think having the experience and then, I kind of feel like I've progressed around the circle of, what it is to work in the trauma space.
mm,
Um, yeah, it's hard and the support isn't to the standard it should be. But it also getting out of the police force and then doing my own healing was like, I think like, the first time I ever did a coaching call, it's like, that is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. And even now, like this week, every time I've got off a call, I just sit there in pure gratitude because it's coaching and breathwork is like the most selfless thing that I've ever done because it's not about me. But then creating that space for my clients to speak, say, feel whatever they need to, and being witness to that is just,
yeah,
I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Like it's just the best feeling in the world. And I'm so lucky that I get to do it.
yeah. It's kind of you've created the space that you wanted the police to engage in
Yeah.
because of your own experience as well. And
Yeah.
you've created that as safe space, a place where people can be vulnerable with you, but
Mm.
also can be open to receiving, and
Yeah.
and we need more of that. So, well done, Jackie, for changing that.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And as I said, I would, in the police force, I wouldn't have seen it that way, but
No.
you're also mocked and ridiculed and stuff if you cry or if you show weakness. And, this version of Jackie is very different. The version of me when I was in the job, very different.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but then that's a part of that, an act of self-love as well, that you gave yourself space yourself to
Yeah.
move into a better world for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'd always wanted more for myself and just didn't believe that it was possible or just ignored it, I think. And then when I had no option, it's either, choose life or not. It was like, if I'm going to be here, I want to do it. I want to make it meaningful. I want to be doing things that make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. So when there's we talked a little bit about this, but for others who really want to feel that heaviness, especially now in November, December, leading
Mm.
up to Christmas, usually very stressful time for people. Um, what's the best way that we could sort of have presence with ourselves on those days that are looking heavy?
Yeah. The easiest way is just to pause. Ideally go outside because there's something, we're intrinsically tied to nature. So if you can go outside, just you can close your eyes and just take 5 breaths. Just create that pause with no phone, no TV, like no screens.
Yeah.
Um, that's the easiest way. If you want to add a layer to it, you could do some grounding or like tune into your surroundings. And even sometimes it's fun just to play with your senses. So,
Mm.
close your eyes and what can you hear or what can you smell or what can you see? But just those micro moments, you know, when you first wake up, sitting up, having a drink of water and just closing your eyes for a moment. Before you walk into the office or, before you get out of your car, just turning the car off and closing your eyes and taking a breath. Before you go to bed. Like it seems so basic and so simple, and we just don't do it enough.
Yeah, because we just do rather than one of my favorite authors has passed away used to say, "Don't forget we're a human being, not a human doing."
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But I think we also look at self-care. I'm a journaler. Journaling was really my first practice that's really, really supported me on my healing. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't have enough time, or, this is going on, or I'm too busy. And we try and make self-care look perfect as well. And it's like, just take the 2 minutes or take the 20 minutes, or, instead of making excuses to not do it. And I think sometimes we spend more time reasoning with ourselves about why we should or shouldn't do something instead of just doing it.
Yes, yes. Well, that really shouldn't be in our vocabulary. I should or shouldn't.
Yeah.
And what does leading from within mean to you?
Leading from within to me means leading with your heart, means living in a way where you are you, the truest and most authentic version of you, and honoring that that can change. And when we go through trauma, there's so many different versions of us, and not making yourself wrong for that. I always, when I ask people, how are they? It's like, how are you today? Because that can change. But to me, yeah, leading from within is like leading with heart, like leading with compassion, leading with openness and acceptance
Mm,
rather than judgment and criticism, and doing things that we enjoy,
yeah. Yeah.
like creating space for joy, because life's serious enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Yeah, yeah. And especially this time of year again, just
Yeah.
we could just put one joyful moment in the day and just laugh a bit.
Oh, just be a kid,
Mm.
just have a little bit of fun. Like, don't be so serious. And I think, yeah, this time of year especially, there's so much pressure on ourselves. There's financial pressure for so many, there's holiday pressure, there's, for some, being with family
Yeah.
is pressure, is triggering, is all of those things. And then on top of that, again, society, it's like we put so much pressure on, the perfect presence and the perfect experience. And it's like, it's actually not what it's about.
Mm. Yeah.
I look back at, I think back about my childhood, and you know, we weren't wealthy. And I remember like asking so many times for certain presents or whatever. And it's like my parents saying no. And I was very much like, oh, well, this person's got that and this person got that. But I look back at it now, and that's not what well, I do remember it, but that's not what has shaped me.
No. Mm.
To me, it's the experiences that I had with my family. It's like the traveling or the holidays or those like silly little moments. And, I'm unlike like a lot of my clients and community experience trauma young, so they have quite blocked memory from an early age. Whereas because mine happened when it started when I was 15, I have a lot of wonderful memories from when I was a kid.
Mm,
And it's like that's what's important. It's like it's connection. Leading
yeah.
from within is connecting.
Connecting is a huge thing. And I think we're more disconnected today because of social media and being online and
Oh, go to a restaurant when we go to a restaurant and it's like you just look around and see how many people are, on their
sitting on their
screen.
phones. Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
And I
I
think
actually laugh at like when I go for my nature walks, I'd be crossing the road in a very busy village where I live, and it's like everyone's on the phone, even walking, and I'm just I'm not laughing at them, but I'm just like going, come on, live a bit. Like you're not
yeah.
on the phone living.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I live next to some bushland and I take my dog for a walk every day. And I very, very rarely take headphones. And the other day I took my headphones because I needed to make a couple of calls. And I was like, oh, I just don't enjoy this. Like I don't, I felt really quite disconnected.
Yeah.
But I think, accessibility these days. And also, my partner and I are guilty. Sometimes we put the kids to bed and we sit on the couch, and then it's like playing catch up with emails and everything else. And it's like, we need to just switch off.
When's your time? That,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again, that's very hard with family. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And you see it in kids, like so many kids are addicted to screens, and it's scary.
yeah.
It's scary.
Just want to get to the last question. If someone's listening feels stuck or disconnected from their inner truth, what's one gentle step they could take today to begin coming home to themselves?
Yeah. So the one of the simplest and most beautiful practices is you close down your eyes, you put your hands on your heart, and you take a breath in, and you ask yourself, what do I need right now? What do I need right now?
Mm,
And that automatically builds that connection.
yeah, yeah. And even stopping in that present moment and then again listening to everything, 'cause, your gut will tell you, your
Yeah,
brain gut is very
yeah,
clever, going into your intuition, your heart, brain. There's a
yeah.
lot of things that our body tells us, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can, if you want to go a step deeper, a step further, you could say, like, what is my head saying right now? What is my gut saying right now? What is my heart saying right now? And you'll get different messages, which people think I'm a little bit crazy for saying that, but try it and tell me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. We're very complex beings too.
Oh, so complex.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, it was a quick 40 minutes, but it's been a joy to be able to exchange some of those. It's a really important topic. It's to take some time to yourself, be self-compassionate, and to breathe as well, to be reminded to stop and breathe and listen to what's going on inside of us.
Yeah, just spend time with yourself. It's so important. But it's
Mm.
been, yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a really wonderful conversation.
This is Dr. Mel Baker holding space for our living voices. If you would like to be part of this podcast and share your story, please get in touch with me. Thanks for listening.